Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Now it is time to introduce our main speaker for tonight, Tom W.
Hi everybody, my name is Tom Whalen. I'm an alcoholic. You know, I'd like to welcome especially the new people that are here and wish you a hearty happy birthday to all the birthday people. It's kind of I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, but when I was a regular member here several years ago, I was just thinking while I was sitting there that other than Jerry and Kathleen, everybody else is just like all newcomers, I guess. I don't know. I just don't know where you were going to meetings. I left town in 1974 and moved to Orange County, but I was a regular member up here for a number of years. Anyway, it's apropos of nothing. I am going to do what most of us are asked to do when we are asked to share, whether it's over the phone with somebody you're talking to or whether in a formal gathering like this. I'm going to tell a little bit about what I used to be like, what happened to me, and what I'm like now, and if you can get some good out of it, fine. The reason I do this, I'm getting a little tired of doing it too. I've been doing it for too many years. But I was just up here last Friday night telling the same dreary story at some other meeting. I don't know, they all blend together after a while. Anyway, I've had an odd couple of months. I'm an electrical contractor and I do all the work myself. I do everything and been very busy all year. I mean, just the phone rings and just keep going and whatever. And all of a sudden, first couple of weeks in October, it's like they disconnected my phone. The phone didn't ring and I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? And so I left the house a couple of weeks ago and I said to my wife, Gloria, I go to the gym every day and Monday through Friday, and I said to Gloria, I said, well, I'll see you in a couple hours. And I called her a few hours later and I said, I'm really upset. She said, what's the matter now? And I said, I have more work than I can handle for the next several weeks. I mean, it just happened in about 10 minutes. And my life seems to be like that emotionally. I've got a lot of stuff out of Alcoholics Anonymous. Believe me, I have. Serenity doesn't happen to be one of them. I just, like a mini madman half the time. And I don't know why. One thing Alcoholics Anonymous has done for me is to maybe I just accept it and figure that's just the way I am. Anyway, I'm going to try to share what it used to be like and hope and get some identification out of it. I've been sober longer than God, it seems like. I just, sometimes I think I've been sober too long. Well, you know, it's been so long since I was loaded that I don't really remember all of that stuff because it's been so many years ago. I mean, you know, my mind is not all that good anyway. And now that I'm a little older, my memory's shot. So I just, I don't know. But what the danger is there when you're sober a long time is you have a tendency to forget what you used to be like and what happened. And that would happen to me. And fortunately for me, I've had a love affair with Alcoholics Anonymous ever since I arrived. And I just love being sober. Fortunately for me, I like the people in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I sponsor way too many people. but it keeps me right in the middle of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I read home groups and all that sort of stuff, and it really is a wonderful life. But if I don't keep doing this, I might forget and think, well, hell, you know, I could probably drink now. I mean, I live in a different county. I'm married to a different woman, you know, I mean, everything has changed and whatever, so I can probably handle it now. And I know that isn't true. I love to drink. I went to school and was raised here in Westwood, and I was driving down Westwood Boulevard. I went to Junior's for dinner, which I remember when it opened, and I just loved to go there. And I love to go there and get some Jew food. I just love that stuff. And anyway, I was driving down Westwood Boulevard, and I passed where my old favorite bar was, the Cork and Fork on Westwood Boulevard. And then it's now a Chinese takeout, which is something wrong with that, I think. And another block down this way is the Red Log, and that it's a pizza place now. So there's I don't know, there's something wrong about that. I don't know. There's nothing I can do about it now. But I went over to Santa Monica, went over to St. Paul the Apostle Grammar School, and I screwed around there badly enough. They sent me to New York to live with my sister, who was a very well-known movie actress in the late 30s and 40s, and I started to drink, probably when I was about 9 or 10 years old, and I loved to drink. I came from a very tragically sad family. My parents didn't even drink. Talk about how horrible that is. I mean, you people have your parents to blame for this stuff, but I had to learn this thing all on my own, and which is a hardship. I had to steal booze out of neighbors' houses, you know, in order to drink. So by the time I came back from New York, and I finished my last 2 years at high school, at Loyola High School, I guess my only claim to fame there, because I've been drinking now almost every day, is that I carried a bottle in my glove compartment, came to Latin class smashed a few times, and I was regularly drinking, and I loved to drink. I liked everything about it. When I was going over to Santa Monica City College for the short time I was there, I was either drunk or hungover or both, and I was telling this jury story in December, a couple of Decembers ago, and I was talking about when I was 19 years old, and my only desire in life, I had no plans. It's just that I just wanted to stay loaded and get with my friends and listen to some jazz music and come to and talk philosophy and go back and drink some more and pass out again and watch the Cocker Spaniel get drunk and all that sort of stuff. And that was my life. And I wanted to get out of town. I was dating a girl. It was getting too hot and heavy, so I wanted to get out of town. And so I did a real brilliant thing. I volunteered to be drafted. And they took me up on it, and I went in the Army right away. In fact, I went overseas immediately. I went to Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Kentucky, which is overseas if you're native Californian. And I'm down there, and I'm getting drunk and trying to work. But fortunately, I had a desk job where I could drink in the morning and noon and the afternoons, and then we would go to the mess hall and get cleaned up and go into town and drink. And that was my my life in the Army for 3 years. This gal that I ran away from, I think, she came down to Fort Smith, Arkansas for the weekend, ostensibly. And she gets off the plane and she says, well, now that I'm here, why don't we get married? And I thought, well, okay, big, strong Tom. So we went off and got married. We went off and got married and signed a suicide pact for the next 20 years. And, you know, I don't know. I don't know what the hell she saw in me anyway. I guess she just maybe had a great desire to suffer. But anyway, she's the kind of a girl I shouldn't even have dated, for Christ's sake. And here I am married to her. And we had these 2 kids before I got out of the Army. One 1-year-old, one getting born, and I felt like my life was over. I haven't even dated, for Christ's sake, and how I'm shackled with all these responsibilities. And I had enough sense on how to behave because my dad was a hard-working electrical contractor in this area. And so I decided that since I was going to take over his business now, that I shouldn't be drinking during the day anymore. And so I don't remember whether it was a problem. It's all too many years ago. But what happened during that first year is that I would just drink in the evenings. You can drink on weekends. That doesn't count daily. And during the week, you just shouldn't drink during the day. When you're managing a business, you're a husband and a father and all that sort of stuff. And that was my intention. That was my belief. And what happened, I found myself 11, 12 o'clock in the morning and afternoon. I'm getting very anxious and uptight and nervous. And maybe I'm just high-strung, as I was diagnosed as being when I was in grammar school and high school. But I don't know what it was. And so I found quite accidentally that if I had a couple of beers with my pastrami sandwich, I had a much better afternoon. That's a message you new people can take with you. Because relief is literally a swallow away. There's just no question about that. And so I did that, and I wasn't telling anybody about it. I can't tell my father that I'm drinking on his time at lunchtime because he had little or no use for people who even drank. My wife wouldn't have understood while I'm drinking during the day, and so it was going to be my little secret. And I would buy a quart of bourbon or scotch, whatever, and put it on the kitchen sink Friday night. Ostensibly, that was my legal bottle for the week. And Sunday, she usually said to me, "What happened to that bottle you bought the other night? It's empty." I said, "Well, I know what happened to it. Maybe you had a drink out of it. I don't know, you know." Well, I may be alcoholic, but I'm not stupid. You buy 2 quarts on a Friday night. You put one in the kitchen sink and you hide the other one in the garage. And you work bottle A into bottle B and watch the line go up and down. And it's a lot of work, but it keeps their goddamn mouth shut about my drinking. And so I was doing that, you know, running out in front of the garage. Loved to barbecue. I'd barbecue in the rain, for God's sake, just to get outside. And I went on this way for a number of years, and I don't know what all happened, for Christ's sake, but it was starting to affect me emotionally. I would get, maybe I'd be at some club and drink 27 Scotch and waters and drive half of you home, and yet maybe 3 hours later, or the next afternoon, I'd be beating my fists on the steering wheels, parked in the car, wondering what's wrong with me, would my life all go to hell, and everything is just horrible, and oh my God, and I was talking about a drama queen, but I mean, it was just ridiculous. And so I sought the help of a psychiatrist, something we all used to do in the late 50s and early 60s, and I found a doctor I had a pretty good rapport with. I told him about my highs and my lows and my strange growing up and all the stuff that we tell our doctors, except one small thing. He kept asking me, "How much do you drink, Tom?" And I told him 6 or 8 ounces of alcohol a day, doctor. It seemed like a normal amount for a heavy drinker to drink. I'm more than happy to be a heavy drinker because it is, after all, a sign of manhood or adulthood. For me to control and enjoy my drinking was my great obsession. I didn't quite understand when I was controlling it, I wasn't enjoying it, and when I was enjoying it, I certainly wasn't controlling it. But I couldn't see that in those days, and all I wanted to have people get off my goddamn back and leave me alone. I go to work every day. I take the kids to Indian guides and the movies and the beach and all the other stupid stuff they want to do. As long as I had fresh alcohol in my system. You know, you're laughing at this. Is a tragic story here. I don't know what all this is about. So anyway, I was just something wrong with me, and I saw this doctor about 3 or 4 years in and out of private therapy and group therapy, all the therapies you can dream up. But what happened, because I couldn't be honest with my number one problem, which is my alcoholism, is I got sicker and sicker and sicker in this guy's care, and because I didn't understand all this whole stuff. And but it worked. When you're in therapy or in some recovery or some other name they're calling it this week, people kind of get off your case and leave you alone and figure out he's trying and all that sort of stuff. And that's the way it was with me. And I didn't understand all this kind of stuff, but I had sort of a routine where I'd work all through the day, I'd drink all through the day, and then my wife couldn't understand while I was most of the time passed out on the couch. I told her I was tired from working. After having just 2 drinks at the house, that's all she saw. She didn't realize I'd had a quart and a half already. Anyway, I was sitting at the little club in Beverly Hills, right around the corner of my psychiatrist's office. I hadn't had a drink since noon, and I go in there, and I have 3 or 4 double scotches or whatever I was drinking that season, and get myself well enough to go to see this psychiatrist for his 50-minute hour. And Well, you look better when you leave a bar. You know, we all do. I mean, you look in the back bar and you can see you're a little more handsome, more together, and it kind of relaxes you and you can talk more honestly with the psychiatrist. And so that was my theory there on that. And this one particular day, he looked at me and he said, you know, you're drunk. I said, what do you mean I'm drunk? He said, you look drunk, you act drunk, and you smell drunk. I assume you're drunk. I said, well, a couple of beers for lunch, which I think is our stock answer. He says, I think a little bit more than that, a little bit more recent is going to help with my drinking problem, albeit my non-existent drinking problem. But I'll go along with the gag, whatever. And he put me in heavy dose of Librium and heavy dose of Stelazine. And if I thought I was just a little mildly neurotic, I'll take the pills they prescribe and be just fine. That's exactly what I did. Hell, I took them more than prescribed. I want to get well now. Want to wait around a month. And a few years ago, I got a little annoyed. I was reading the LA Times about this article about the guy they filmed the film A Beautiful Mind, and they were giving him the same drugs they were giving me. And I don't know whether he had an incompetent psychiatrist or whether I did. I don't know, but anyway, that's where it was. And he told me, incidentally, not to drink with these drugs, but what do they know? And so I got my wire nuts in one pocket with the pills, and I'm popping these things and drinking behind them and the whole thing, and I'm wiring houses and remodeling and doing all this stuff in this part of town, in Beverly Hills and Santa Monica and the Valley and the other places around here. I mean, I don't know of any real problems that happened because of my work. I mean, there were no major fires. Well, but shit happens, you know, so you went on this way, and I didn't know what's going on. Come home, drive down Wilshire Boulevard, get to a little silly corner like Wilshire and Westwood up here, you know, about 10:30 in the morning, wait for the signal to change, take about an hour and a half. I'd come to, and the lady in front of me said I ran into her car, which I may have. I don't know. I'm not your best witness. And come home some nights, rip that house apart, terrorize that wife and family. Some nights come home just as peaceful as I'm this evening, even more peaceful. Come home at 6, 7 o'clock at night, lay down in the living room rug, take a little nap before dinner time. Sometimes I'd miss dinner, but there's other meals, and I'd get up at 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, go take a leak in the linen closet and go to bed. So, you know, my wife's losing her sense of humor over this kind of stuff, and so guess what? She files for divorce, and I'm out in the street looking for a place to live, the rotten bitch, and here I am. Hey, I'm the victim here, you know, and well, I got myself a one-room place right behind my favorite drinking bar called the Cork and Fork on Westwood Boulevard. And I had sort of a routine where I'd get up in the morning at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, sit in the edge of my wet bed from perspiration or what have you, and go to the linen closet where I'm still hiding the booze from myself. Go figure. I'm living alone. I guess old habits die hard. And I get myself well enough to go to work in the morning, have about a half a pint to a pint, and hope I would last until lunchtime. And some days I did. Most of the time I couldn't get past 10, 10:30. I'd start to shake and get those terrors coming back. Excuse me, I'll be right back. I've just got to run down for the hardware store for something, ma'am, and lay down the front seat of my car and drink a little hot vodka and get the motor running where I could last until lunchtime and sit in these bars. I didn't sit at the bars, the people like you probably sat. I sat at a booth. And I read my Herald Examiner and got myself well enough to go back to work or maybe just go home to my room and watch General Hospital on television, whatever seemed right. That's what my life was like in 1965. I was living alone, and it was pretty depressing and pretty horrible. I mean, I just can't believe it. There was all this, about this time of year, a little earlier, October, I think, my wife came to visit me and told me kind of a husband I was. She went to visit me about 10 o'clock in the morning. She thought I was home my vodka break. And she told me kind of a husband I was, kind of a father I was, kind of a son I was to my mother and dad. What was going to do about Christmas was coming up, and the kids needed clothes, and the attorney wants to be paid, and they turn the electricity off again, the assurances will lapse, all these mundane problems, and what she's telling me about these things like I'm supposed to do something. It was just awful. Anyway, she left. Merciful for me, I I went crazy, and I had, fortunately for me, I just purchased the night before 100 Seconal sleeping pills, of which I took all of those and a bunch of scotch, and I just checked out. It's the understandable thing to do because you get to a point with your alcoholism and your drug addiction when you really can't do it anymore. I mean, we joke in here about this time will be different, I can handle it. I realized it wasn't going to be any different. I didn't want to stop drinking. I was totally addicted to it, but I could not equate one with the other. I couldn't talk without stuttering unless I had fresh alcohol in my system. I couldn't do my electrical work because I'm shaking. You can't do that when you're working on hot wires. You blow everything up. So I don't know what I just wanted to get out. And a kid that was working for me part-time thought I was acting a little bizarrely, and he came to my apartment, found me in this coma, and they rushed me up to across the street to UCLA Medical Center. And they pumped me full of holes, I guess, and pumped my stomach. I don't know what they did. I wasn't there. And I was in this coma for about 13 hours, and I came to in this funny-looking green room, and I thought, Christ, I've even screwed this up. I can't even get out of here. Talk about bad breaks. And when my vital signs came around, they put me in another ambulance, and they shipped me off to a mental institution where I was to stay for a while, but not for alcoholism, something respectable, suicide. And that's where they put people like us in those days. They didn't have the recovery facilities that they have today. And I was in there for a while. They were very kind to me. They were very nice. I had a 24-hour guard on me. I guess they were afraid I was going to do something rash. Well, I made my little ashtray well enough when I got out of there. And the first place I stopped was Jerry's Liquor Store on Olympic. And of all the things that I talk about in this phase of my talk, to me it's the most bizarre. Because wouldn't you think I stay sober a couple of months, a couple of weeks, a couple of days? But I realized I can't go in my room naked with nothing to drink because I had nothing to drink there. So I had to stop in Jerry's and get a quart of each. And I stayed drunk that week. I've been drunk every day. And I've got to rush through this because I don't have any time. I got to talk about being a little bit sober. And anyway, it just was a bad deal. I went to Mass on Christmas of 1965. And I got on my knees in the back of that church, and I asked God to grant me some peace. I didn't want to quit drinking because it wasn't an issue, but I wanted to sleep for more than 2 hours at a time. If you drink the way I drink, a couple of quarts during the day, and by 8 or 9 o'clock at night, you're passed out, and that's fine with me. I have no quarrel with that. But what happens to me is I wake up in 2 hours, and wide awake as I am right now, and I can't get back to sleep unless I drink some more and walk that floor back and forth and drink some more and walk some more to wear myself out and pass out again so I can sleep another 2 or 3 hours. That's where my life had been reduced to in 1965. And I want to ever, ever, ever go back to that again. And that was my prayer. And 2 days later, my prayer was answered. Although I didn't see it as such, but I woke up one morning, much like any other day. Nothing new had happened in my life, no new drama. And I went to my linen closet where I was still hiding the booze to myself. And I went and got my morning vodka down and had my first drink and second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever I was drinking. And I went to put the bottle of vodka back on the top shelf, and I noticed a bottle of Ballantine scotch had about that much left. And I thought, Christ, that's a lot of scotch since 8 o'clock the night before. It was remarkable how much I was drinking, yet it was no more or no less. I was drinking all the way along, but it was kind of like shown to me. And I went to the phone a few hours later, and I called Alcoholics Anonymous, of all places. And I went to a meeting that night at Ohio Street in West Los Angeles. And I was sat in the back of the room where you're still sitting, you're new, don't get too close. And don't pick up any coffee cups, I think you're a member. And I sat back there in my hands, because the first thing was going to see me shaking, because I didn't have quite enough to drink. And I was sort of purple in color. I was sweating profusely. I had green slime coming out of my mouth, and the breath purifier was I was Jewish, so nobody knew I was drinking. And some jerk who I was sitting next to, who I didn't know, a total stranger, and he raised my hand as a newcomer, which I think was very nice. I mean, I still today don't know how the hell I knew I was a newcomer, because I sure as hell didn't tell him, I'll tell you that. But that was the night I walked up to a man as to be my sponsor, and I said, excuse me, sir, you seem to be some sort of a big deal around here. How do you join Alcoholics Anonymous? How do you become a member? He said, you don't drink, kid. I said, yes, I'm planning on cutting down. He said, well, you don't have a grasp of our program. We don't drink here a day at a time. I said, it's very easy for you to say. Apparently you're sober sometime, but I can't go a whole day without a drink. I tried it one day in July, and it damn near killed me. Well, he thought that was so goddamn funny, and he got some of the guys he sponsored and some of his friends and gathered them around me and made me repeat what I said to him so they could get a laugh out of it, you know. sounded kind of cruel to me, but I've come to find out if you can't exploit and make fun of the new people, what good are they? And so I went back to my psychiatrist. This was 5 days a week. If you're wondering how I'm affording a psychiatrist 5 days a week, I'm not. My daddy's taking care of me. I'm only 32 years old. I can't pay my bills or raise my family or do any of that. It was hideous. And but some way this man was able to convince me and show me how to get out of my room in the morning without taking a drink. And I did that one day, and another day, and it's hard to believe that all these days have gone by, and a couple of months or less than 2 months, I'll have 40 years in the program. That's a long time between drinks. And cuts into my time. Don't do that. Anyway, I got very active on the program. I went to meetings every night. My wife and I reconciled at some naive idea that she was going to go to Al-Anon and get the kids to go to Alateen and Alatot and get the dog to go to Alapet and other stuff. But not going to happen. She couldn't see the need for Al-Anon. Her life was, after all, my problem, and she continued on with her psychologist, and I went to AA. And there was a certain amount of a honeymoon those first few months, but that doesn't last very long. Those of us have been around a while. And, you know, I went to a meeting one Friday night, maybe it was this meeting. And it was just a fun meeting and had a good time. And I left that meeting just as crazy and goofy as I have ever been or been since. I was out in the car crying and laughing maniacally, and I went down to Santa Monica Beach and walked down there on this full moon night. Maybe that was wrong with me. And couldn't sort it all out. I ended up at my sponsor's house quite late that night, got him out of bed, as a matter of fact. And the reason we have sponsors, and as I said earlier, I sponsor a lot of people, but we have magic sentences. That's our job. You come to us with a myriad of problems, or maybe several problems, and we lay one or maybe two magic sentences on you, and you're in fine shape for maybe 10 minutes. And this particular night, he was out of magic sentences. And he told me to go home and do a searching and fearless moral inventory of myself, which I couldn't identify with. I spent so much of my life in the Catholic system of examination of conscience and confession. If that's not a fourth and fifth step, what is? Years that I spent in psychiatrist offices talking about what I used to be like, what happened, what I'm like now. And he cursed me and embarrassed me, and against my better judgment, I had to go home and start this four-step. I was able to put in that four-step things that I was never able to tell a Catholic priest in confession because they were too tacky, too embarrassing, too sinful, things that I couldn't tell a psychiatrist. You can't tell them that kind of stuff. They'll think you're crazy. So you got to be very guarded what you tell people in that venue, but in Alcoholics Anonymous, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start and put all that crap down. Put your goals down. Find out who the hell you're dealing with. So much of my life was spent in fantasy land and let's pretend and never satisfied with anything I was doing, who I was with, anybody else would have been better, that kind of stuff. I still pride myself on being a chronic malcontent, but in those days it was even worse. And it wasn't until after I did this inventory and I had a pretty good handle on who Tom Whalen was, and there's a lot of good qualities that were worth holding on to. A lot of stuff had to go, and I wish I could tell you it was gone in the first few days or weeks or decades, but it takes a long time. We're on a journey. All of us are on a journey of sobriety, and it's uncovering, discovering, and discarding, and trusting God, cleaning house, and helping others, and that's our program. That's what we do. I still do it. It's difficult. I feel like I shouldn't have to, but I still have to do it all the time, and it's not proud of it, but that's what you kind of have to do to keep going like this. I did the other steps, of course, as we all do, that those of us that stay sober do. And I did a fifth step with this man, and I did a sixth and seventh step on my knees in a standard service station men's room, I think, because it was he told me to go do it as soon as I could, where I could be alone. That was what I found. Made the list of people I had harmed and paid them back, and I've been in and out of debt ever since, and kind of the American way. But I don't know how it all happens, and so many years have gone by that it's just mind-boggling to me. And I woke up when I was a little before I was 8 years sober. I noticed these two little boys were getting out of high school, and both of them were stoned out of their minds, drunk, selling drugs out the back door. He couldn't walk in the living room without getting contact high, and it was just, it was awful. And I didn't know what the hell I was going to do. And my then wife was going along with what the kids were doing. And that's when my wife filed a divorce in 1974, and that's when I moved down to Dana Point, where I live near now. And as I was driving down the freeway, thinking I'm doing my will or his will. When you're around here a while, you don't want to screw this thing up. You want to do it correctly. And so I said a prayer that my sponsor gave me. I'm going to share it with you. It goes like this. God, I have no idea where I'm going. I do not see the road ahead of me, and I cannot know for certain where it'll end, nor do I really know myself. And the fact that I think I'm following your will does not mean that I'm actually doing so. But I believe this. I believe the desire to please you does in fact please you. And I hope I have that desire in everything I do, and I hope I never do anything apart from that desire. And I know if I do this, you will lead me by the right road, though I may know nothing about it at the time, though I may seem to be lost. In the very shadow of death, I'll not be afraid, because I know you will never leave me to face my troubles all alone. With this, as she continued on the freeway, of course, I told her to come apart when I wanted what the business would be run. None of which happened. I got her a nicer apartment, a lot less money, and I was about 5 minutes too late for the Yellow Pages, so I spent a year with no advertising, trying to run a business in a strange town with no advertising. That was fun. Back and forth to Los Angeles. It was a hideous year. Alone for the first time, it seemed like in my life, and it was just a tough adjustment. I started a date again, which I was not too good at in high school, much less in my early 40s. And I did that, and met a girl, and we went together for a while, and it was too crazy and too hot and heavy, and I broke it off, and then we got back together again, and I guess around our natal birthdays in August. And she invited me to go out for dinner, and I thought, well, okay, you know, free meal, what can it hurt, you know? And well, I'm very romantic, and so we got up again and started. And when she was in the hospital in January of '74, having a radical mastectomy, I went to visit her. I said, where are you going to move to when you get out of the hospital? And she said, well, I don't want to go here. I said, well, come home with me until you start to feel better, and I'll take care of you. And she said, fine. And then the relationship intensified. We were ultimately married. We had a good marriage. I think the only problem in that marriage were my 2 drug addict alcoholic children and her 3 daughters and a son who were not much better condition than my kids are in. And they loved to come to visit us in their various stages of stoneness. I mean, it was just a delight to watch. Well, they're all sober now, those that are still alive. And it was quite a deal. My youngest son, who over on Veteran, he was living at that time on Veteran, and he fell out of a second-story window, stoned on angel dust and some cheap wine, and broke himself all up and ended up at East LA Hospital, and I went to visit him. I said, Jim, this is as much to shoot for. You know, why don't you go out to Scuzzy City and come on down to Dana Point, and I'll put you to work for me, and you can get yourself an apartment. Oh, no, Dad, I'm having too good a time. And I said, I can see that. And but he did come down about a year later, and stayed sober in front of me, and because he knew I wouldn't have anybody in my business, it was loaded all the time. And he got picked up one Saturday night for drunk walking, and when he got picked up by the Santa Ana police, or the county police, they put him in the Santa Ana jail. When he got out of the jail on Sunday, he realized he had to quit drinking, and he did it all on his own, with no program, no nothing. He did it all on Quaaludes and marijuana, and it's another problem, and another program, but he at least didn't drink. And I didn't know any of this. I said, Jim, you ought to come to the Wednesday night meeting, one of my home groups in Laguna Beach. And he came to the meeting, and our best speaker in Alcoholics Anonymous was talking that night, Norm Alpe, and he loved it. And stood up as a newcomer, and he's been sober all this time, and this is, it's hard to believe that last May he got 26 years. And he's doing very, very well. And I was just amazed about the whole thing. And he was working for me, and one particular day he calls me and he says he wanted to talk to me. I said, well, I'm going to work with me today. He said, no, I want to talk to you, sit down and have breakfast or something like that. I said, fine, whatever. So he tells me in this meeting that he's homosexual, he's gay, and I thought, well, that broke my heart. It just devastated me. I thought, how can this be? Something I didn't do. I mean, it's all about me. And, but we worked all that through and all of that, of course, you know, and of course he and his significant other 18 years ago, moved to Maui, and they fit and sold toe rings, which is every father's dream, I guess, to have that. But I was whining to him about 12, 13 years ago. I said, Jim, it doesn't look like I'm ever going to become a grandfather. He says, well, we're trying, you know, so I just get through all that stuff. My oldest boy, it's hard to believe, he just celebrated his 50th birthday. And I said, Chris, that can't be. I'm only 40, you know, and I mean, just went to the gym last August, and I told a few of the guys, I said, you know, you wish me happy birthday. Oh, how old are you today, Tom? I said 42. And three of them looked at me, and one of the guys says, well, you don't look it. But anyway, Chris has made me a grandfather twice. Before I came over tonight, I did some shopping and had some extra time, and bought two of my grandsons some Christmas presents and stuff. And it's just a great deal. They have a great life. They got sober mommies and daddies, and it's just a better chance at life than I gave my kids. When my second wife passed away the day after Christmas of 1985, I was devastated. I thought, how can this be? I'd given her cancer. See, she had had 7 cancer surgeries and constant chemotherapy, unbelievable amount of radiation. But I turned her cancer over, and I had some naive idea that she, it was going to work. And she died anyway, as I say, the day after Christmas of 1985. And I was devastated when it was over with. I thought, how can this be? And I just spent a terrible 1986. I was depressed every day. I went to work every day. I did all this AA shit that I was supposed to do, but I got through the year. Obviously, I got through the year. And when it came time, I realized that I had done a third step, and it did work. He says, my God, I offer myself to thee to build with me and do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help. With thy power, thy love, thy way of life. And that's what I'm doing here tonight. I really rather be home watching Law and Order or whatever's on. And, come out, I worked all day and then come down here, and it just seems silly. But but as I say, that's my job. I went to the international convention in Toronto, and it was very meaningful to me, a very meaningful theme, and that was I am responsible. And that's what we are after we are sober here a while, is to give it back and to keep active and keep in there, not to be, which I think the majority of AA members are, the short-termers. They're almost, they are like, they're not participants, they're observers. They come and watch this and see and have a few laughs or whatever. And then they continue that feeling that all of us came in here with, and that's a feeling of being different and apart from. And when we're active in Alcoholics Anonymous and being with our friends, you saw that tonight on the stage, the people, their friends and their sponsors and all that kind of stuff, to give back to what we were so freely given, and I hope I was able to do that tonight. Thank you very much.
Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I don't not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst and one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.